My name is Jacy.
And my name is Juan. Welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things.
Please remember that while we are therapists, we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only.
Today I'm excited about this topic. I think it's good that it's happening in the summer. I love that you came up with it, got your creative juices going. So I think a lot of parents are going to get a lot out of this.
I hope so. It's summertime, and we see. I don't know how locked into social media you are specifically, but on TikTok, you saw like teachers had their countdowns to the end of school. Parents had their countdowns to the end of school. The kids had their countdowns. Like, summer is the season to kind of get reconnected as a family, to not be stuck in a classroom or maybe stuck at work as often. And that can either be really fun or really challenging for people.
That's a good point. No, I need to keep up. Maybe I don't need to keep up as much with what's going on the social media. But they sound very real. And it's interesting. These things happen like every year, but for some reason, you don't really get quite prepared for it, right? It's not like you think about last year and you're like, oh, I'm definitely gonna kick butt this year when it comes to summer. It still gets you and you still get caught up in it. So it's great that we're bringing this out.
Yeah, this is going to be an episode. If you haven't been able to tell yet, we're going to talk a little bit about the summertime. Specifically, we're going to talk to our parents, commiserate with them a little bit on what the hardest part is about the adjustment of the summer, and then give you guys some tips and tricks for how you can have your summer moving a little bit more smoothly.
Tips and tricks, getting your summer more smoothly. I'm just imagining parents out there listening, and they're like, okay, so this podcast, it's about parents, helping parents in the summer figure out the schedule of the kids and their work schedule. And, in there, you're thinking, right? That's the goal, right? You're thinking, how do I get this kid off the tablet? But I need the tablet, because the tablet is helpful to give me some time to work, but too much of it is not helpful. And you're in this middle line, and then you want to sign up for all these camps, but then they cost a lot of money. And then you question if they do all these camps, now you're not spending any time with them. So then you feel like a bad parent. And then you're thinking, well, what do I do? Do I do the camps? But then I don't see them. And is that okay? Are they getting a good experience? Well, 50 years ago, we weren't doing any of these camps. We were just spending tons of time together. So should we be doing that? And then you're lost in this rabbit hole. Good thing JC's here to clear the path.
Listen, Jacy is here to provide you some pavers for the path. It's going to be up to you as the parent to figure out exactly what it is that's going to work for your family. Because I'm going to be so real with you. There are some families that really thrive on that consistent structure, like you said, of like having a camp every week or having their kids have a really neatly designed summer. And there are some parents who are really excited for their kids to be out of school because they're like, oh yeah, we finally get to spend more time together as a family. We're going to go on vacation. I remember, like, for me personally, summers always meant going back to my mom's hometown in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we would go to Pittsburgh and we would stay there for like a few days so that we could, see the family and everything. So some of the kids might be off to grandma, grandpa's. Some kids might be with y'all all summer long. Some families go out of the country for the summer. So this is just going to be a snippet, if you would, of things that could potentially work for you and your family. Your mileage may vary, is what I mean to say.
Yeah, I like that. So, maybe there's a lot of good places to start. I think one that I'm leaning towards is what you're mentioning here. Certain things work for certain families. There's a good quote out there, and I think it's like comparison is a thief of joy. So I find that if you can just step back and look at your own family system, and you think about what works for you guys in there, and make sense out of it. Like, why does this work? How does this, if it's camps all summer, if it's sending the kids off to Costa Rica to do some sort of mission and they're gone the whole time, or if they're hanging out with you every single day, whatever it may be, if it makes sense to you, if it connects to your values, if it aligns well, I think really starting there, it helps with those next steps when you start maybe being very critical of yourself or second guessing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you start to say like, oh, well, these people stay with their kids, or this family has this help. Okay, but their family is not your family, and that is okay. We're just looking for what works for you. So I hope that these tips and tricks are helpful regardless of what structure your summer is going to take on, because I would say that summer is a stressful time for families,
Yeah.
regardless of what the plan is. Um, so I kind of want to dive into the expression of that stress. So you've seen parents who kind of shut down when they get overwhelmed. You've seen parents who do a lot of yelling or lots of like heightened emotional expression when they
Yep.
get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important for us to kind of give everybody the rundown on what's really happening, because most of the time, it's not that these parents are awful, terrible people and they want to be yelling at their kids. That's usually not how anybody feels. But instead, we're going to take it from the perspective of the nervous system. Our nervous system is exactly what it sounds like. It's designed to help us stay safe. I think that's the way that I describe it most often in session. And so we're going to talk a little more about the why people tend to get overwhelmed there.
Yeah, so it's a good point. I'm gonna jump in, but you jump in if you want to jump in here.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
Going back to we've got these we got our nervous system, and it's going to present itself in a certain way, and certain situations do and can impact us on how we present ourselves. You got like the classic of cars coming towards you, and you're gonna jump, out of the way. So you think about like what's happening in your nervous system when this situation is taking place. Some of the old school examples are you're hiking and a bear tries to attack you, and then you think, well, what do you do? Do you run? Do you fight the bear? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not. Do you get into a fetal position so that it leaves you alone? Then you go a little bit deeper, right? What's happening in the brain? What's your nervous system doing? And here we've got these three areas: hyperarousal, our window of tolerance, and hypo. And that's the difference there: one hyper and then one hypo arousal. JC, you want to break these down?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about hyper arousal. You can think of hyper, that prefix meaning over. So your nervous system is overly aroused. This might mean that you're overstimulated, you're more sensitive to noise, you're pretty emotionally worn thin. Maybe, there's a lot of noise going on. Everybody's iPad is turned up to max volume and everybody's arguing and everything is sticky and there are crumbs everywhere. That causes like hyper arousal. So that means that we are up to the very, very top and we have nowhere to go but outward in an uncontrolled manner. Yeah. Then we've got that hypo arousal, that prefix meaning under. So we're under aroused. This is the person who's numb. This is the person who's like tuned out everything. Maybe they're doom scrolling on the phone while the house is in chaos, which for the record, neither of these mean anything specific about you as a person. It just dictates what your response to overstimulation would be.
Yep. Good point.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. Just a good point. Yeah. They don't have to mean X, Y, or Z. Just is what's taking place.
It is, and that's all it is. It's simply what is happening in that moment. So maybe you find yourself getting, like I said, overly aroused. There's just too much going on. You're overstimulated and everything pretty much sucks. Like this is not the place that we want to be in. On the other side of that, again, we've got that hypo arousal, which is under, we're lethargic, we might be doom scrolling. And what we're aiming for is something called the window of tolerance. That is the moment in which you can think pretty clearly and logically and not be driven by your emotions, but you can still feel your emotions. So maybe all the iPads are going off all at once, and instead of yelling at the kids and taking everybody's iPad away, you can have a conversation of, hey, it's too loud in here. We need to turn these down. Great deal. High fives all around. And we can handle the issue without maybe going outside of things that are against our character or against our values as a parent.
Yeah. And in picturing that, I love to picture things. It's one of my ways of learning. I'm thinking about myself in a hyper arousal state. So I'm in like overdrive, tons of energy. And I'm really thinking about, well, what does that look like if you see me? Maybe it's fast breathing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe I'm like really um agitated, not still, moving around. I could
Mm-hmm.
be yelling, and it's due to whatever situation's taken place, my response to that, and me moving away to the window of tolerance, which I'm looking at this picture here that you provided, JC, which I like. It has the window of tolerance. It's like move to the green area. I think about the green zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the same situation. Your child's on the tablet. They've been on there too long, but this time I'm calm. I'm balanced. I am trying to solve the problem. I'm trying to see what the problem is. I'm trying to engage with the situation. And that's really what we're looking at here on how can we get to know these three areas a little bit more so that you're able to navigate the summer effectively. And so to jump in, JC.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to talk about some things that we can do to help restructure the summer, make it go well. The first thing that we can do is we can introduce structure to the summer. It is really tempting to sort of sink into that, oh, we don't have anything to do, the same
Mm,
way that the kids sink into it. Because for some of us, kids play sports, kids do extracurriculars, they're in after school care. I'm working a ton. So when you get the opportunity to not have to drive to an 8 a.m. soccer game, yeah,
that's
you're probably going
right.
to take that
You're
opportunity.
like living the dream.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
No,
but
no.
structure is still really valuable to children's development. And that structure for children generally, not just your younger kids, but your teenagers too. Um, it might be as easy as scheduling times throughout the day. So maybe all of the meal times are planned. We're going to eat breakfast at 8. We're going to eat
Yeah.
lunch at noon. We're going to go on a family walk at 4, and then we'll come home and have dinner at 6. Having that sort of structure in your day can help the kids feel less unmoored in their day. So they're not just kind of waiting around for the next activity to
Hmm.
happen. And you get the opportunity to sort of structure your day around it as well. So you're working in a collaborative effort to make sure that everybody has something to do. And that stops a lot of the, oh, I'm hungry. Can I have a snack? Yeah, of course. Like, go and have a snack, but know that lunch happens at noon. Oh, I
Hmm.
want to go outside and play with my friends. Okay, you can go outside and play with your friends, but remember, dinner is at 6, so we're going to take our family walk. And if you see us while you're outside playing with your friends, you're welcome to join us. Like,
Yeah.
these are just general sort of things, but I hope that's illustrative enough for you when we talk about what structure is like.
Yeah. No, I think that's helpful because that seems to be one of the things that goes out the window when there's a transition from, we'll say, the academic school year, and then you go into summer. Kids as on a whole, all the way from K through 12, even college, it's summer. It's all right. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means I'm done with like everything. I'm done with getting up early. I'm done with the schedule that we were doing. And then for the parent, that can potentially sound exciting. Yeah, I think it could also be like really is maybe just like a worrisome. You get nervous, and you're like, all right, this is not good, because
Mm-hmm.
now you've got people waking up at all sorts of hours. That's going to mess up their sleeping pattern, and then as soon as that happens, and you're not getting enough rest, you're likely to get irritable, on edge.
Mm-hmm.
That whole window of tolerance we talked about, where you go from hyper, hypo, in that green zone window of tolerance. If those basic areas of life aren't going too well, such as if sleep's not there, it's a little easier to get into one of the ones that we don't want to get into.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And of course, with tailor this to the age appropriateness of your children as well. If you're content to let your teenager sleep till noon, mazel tov, go for it. That's
Yeah,
perfectly
that's right.
fine. If it works for your family, then it works for you guys. But any sort of structure is going to be effective. I also tell people, like, especially our work from home parents, if the kids are home and you have a work schedule, put your children on your schedule. So, hey, I've got a meeting this morning. So while I have this meeting, it's going to be quiet reading time, or you're going to get independent screen time with your headphones while I'm in my meeting. And then once I'm out of my meeting, maybe we can do work together. We can all sit at the kitchen table. I'll sit with my laptop, and you can sit with your workbooks or your coloring book, whatever it is, so that you can integrate your children while not feeling like they need to be entertained the entire time. Independent play is a powerful thing.
That's a good point there. And that maybe that's another. I think for me, it sticks out the term entertain.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are off all levels, not being entertained by wherever they're at, school, etc. But someone is there providing some sort of service, and they're engaged. So I like that term a little bit better, engaged versus entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're at home, and I was speaking with certain parents, and they'll share that feeling of, they're getting bored. I feel like I need to entertain them. I feel like I have to put something on there for them to do. So I love that you've brought this into the equation because I think it can be a factor that gets parents, makes it harder to then regulate yourself because you got all your own stuff that you're doing, and then you're trying to figure out how to give the child something else. And then when the child is not compliant in the way that you're wanting them to
Mm-hmm.
be, then that likely is going to piss you off or create some sort of irritation. And then we're out of that
Mm-hmm.
window of tolerance.
Exactly. I love to tell my nieces and nephews that they will not die if they are bored. Um, they will
Mm,
be a-okay. I think that we, as just a society generally, we are so used to consuming content or being engaged with like our technology or social media or a video game or a TV show, or that we've kind of lost the ability to do some of that regulating on our own and not constantly be fed something to stimulate our brain.
yeah.
So this is a great time also to practice some of those skills for yourself and for your kids. So you can start adding those co-regulation skills into your daily practice to set the tone for the day. Hey, we're going to go on a short walk after breakfast today.
Hmm.
So we're going to eat our breakfast. We're going to have a nice, calm walk. Or, if you've got toddlers, it'll probably be a little less calm because that's what toddlers do. Um,
Hmm.
but having that sort of structure in your day sets the tone, like, hey, you know the drill, you know the deal, here's where we go.
Yeah.
And that kind of moves us into this next piece, which is to tag in some support for parents that are co-parenting with their spouse, like you're both living in the same home, or maybe you and your spouse have some sort of split custody. It's a little easier because there are two people at home
Hmm.
to help.
Yeah.
But if you are a single parent, or maybe you don't have as much support, support comes in many sizes and shapes and flavors, and there's nothing wrong with needing it. Sometimes it's hiring childcare, and sometimes it's ordering takeout. What do
That's
you
right.
have the capacity for? Um, I find this is a little bit more finicky when it comes to what does support actually mean, because maybe the camp is expensive, but that's your support. I just
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
a week for the kids to be out of the house so that I can get my life together so I'm ready for them to be home. Maybe I do need to call parents or in-laws to come and help with kids. Maybe I'm paying an older
Hmm.
teenager in the neighborhood or a college kid who's at home to take the kids out for 2 hours a day, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But there's no shame and there's nothing wrong with asking for additional help and support.
Correct. I've found a little personal note here, um, being able to reach out to even my neighbors, or friends of my kids' parent, yeah, my kids' parents,
Mm-hmm.
and letting them know, which was like a vulnerability phase of my life of, hey, if you need a babysitter, let me know. And that's led to really great relationships where, I'm learning that there's a lot of families out that don't have access to a lot of family daycare.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been nice to get to know other families and build friendships. And then maybe they're dropping off their kids, maybe I'm dropping off mine. And it starts to build like I guess what we would think about was seen really back in the day, right? These
Mm-hmm.
communities of it takes a village. And often that's, your neighbors, your peers. And I think there's a bit of a nervousness there that we may feel to broach that conversation when it's a
Mm-hmm.
peer versus a family member.
Oh, absolutely. And please understand that we are not at all suggesting that you leave your children with
No,
strangers.
no, 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 not at
Like
all, not at all.
that's not what this is. But when we create the communities that we want to live in, it helps everybody beneficially. So, if your kid's got a best friend and the parents really well, you guys can maybe trade off. Hey, the kids can hang out at my house this weekend. Maybe they can hang out at your house next weekend.
Yeah,
Or, hey, we're all kind of burned out from dinner. We're going to order pizzas. Do y'all want to order pizzas with us and let the kids have a play date for dinner?
yep,
It can be anything you want it to be, and it can look any way that you want it to look, but it's going to be essential in alleviating some of that summer tension. And never, ever underestimate the free, low cost or no cost activities that are in our neighborhoods. I know that the library that's closest to me has a craft day every Thursday. So on
yep.
Thursday mornings, you can go to the library and craft with other kids and get your kids some of that additional enrichment while maybe you get the opportunity to sit down and read a book of your own and give yourself, again, a breather so that we're not outside of that window of tolerance.
I love that you mentioned the library. I think that's a underutilized, but maybe really utilized by others. I'm certainly trying to utilize that a lot more. The last one here for timing that I wanted to bring in is with that window of tolerance. I think a helpful visual activity that the whole family can do as you're going into summer is to get like a nice sheet of paper out and put a big green zone, and that's your window of tolerance. And then just sit there with your kids and talk about how do you need to feel to be in a calm, connected state. What needs to be taking place for you to be in this position where you can problem solve? And then go into the other category, which has hyperarousal and hypo. And then what you're doing is you're trying to define those so that during the day, you can just check in with each other. And you could say, hey, you got a red card, a yellow, a green, where are we?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in that green, then you go into some of those activities that, we talked about here. And you're shifting back into that green zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest takeaways that we want you guys to have from today's podcast is that perfection is the enemy when it comes to this whole parenting thing. We're not
Mm-hmm.
expecting you to develop the very bestest, most perfect summer that your kids have ever had. They're going to be bored sometimes. They may be disappointed because they can't go to the pool. You may be burned out yourself. You may be annoyed yourself. All of those things are valid. You're just aiming to create something realistic and sustainable for you and your family to have the best summer that you can have.
Yeah. That's a good journal question there to finish off with, just to reflect on your own. Am I leaning towards that perfection? And of course, try to scratch that term out and give it something a bit more reachable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of maybe a good place for us to have our what are we personal growth challenges.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's where we go towards the end. So for my personal growth challenge, I am going to ask you to get together with your kids and identify 2 activities per person that helps them feel better when they don't feel their best. So maybe one kid is a reader, maybe one kid likes to go outside and jump on the trampoline when they're not feeling their best, And I want you to sort of maybe put these on sticky notes on the fridge or write them down somewhere and say, hey, you seem like you're not having a great time right now. Which one of our skills can we use to help regulate ourselves? That gives the kids some autonomy. It gives you a guidebook for helping your children through those large emotions. Mm-hmm. And it honestly might be something to help you get through your own large emotions.
Yeah. I like those there. Mine will stick. So yours that blended in that family really well. I'm going to lean a bit more towards the parent. And I'm going to encourage you here to look at, this could be a mindful exercise. If you like to write, maybe journal it down. Look at the transition, all the way from late spring and as you transition into summer, and become very curious on how you make that transition. Like what takes place? How do you view the summer? How do you approach it? How do you react or respond during that process? And how is it different from the rest of the year? And you're going to find a couple of things that unfold there. You may realize that you get really anxious those last few weeks before summer begins. And all of that's going to give you some data back. It's going to give you some information. And then it goes back to one of those really neat areas of mental health, getting to know yourself. It equips you with the information needed to then plug in those necessary tools that allow you to move forward effectively.
That's a really good one. It's like the very solid one right there.
That's the power of Chat GPT. No, I'm just kidding.
Boo. Boo. This is me booing you.
Get out. I had to do a mental health Chat GPT joke because it's getting too much.
Maybe we can talk about that one of our next ones.
That's a good one. Yeah, I would like to give my 2 cents that maybe not too many people are going to listen to, but you and I can enjoy each other's company during it at least.
I'm so down. I am so down for this conversation.
Well, awesome. Thank you everybody for listening in. We will see you at the next episode.
See ya.